He is the best plastic surgeon in South Korea. Anyone transformed by him doesn't immediately become a top star, but their confidence greatly improves. His superb skills have attracted countless appointments from those wishing to become beautiful. Logically, he should be very wealthy. However, Dr. Cha Jung-woo has an unwritten rule. One day, a father claimed his daughter was scalded by hot water while bathing. Her face was severely scarred, but her hands were unharmed. Dr. Cha Jung-woo immediately saw the lie, as normally one would instinctively block scalding water with their hands. Without stating this, he refused surgery, citing his policy against performing reconstructive procedures. The father was furious and caused a scene at the front desk, accusing the doctor of looking down on him because he was poor and threatening to smash the hospital. Fortunately, part of the medical team intervened, preventing further drama. Unconvinced, the father exaggerated the story to the media, causing the hospital to lose customers for several days. 2 days later, a girl cautiously approached the front desk, urgently requesting a consultation. Dr. Cha Jung-woo wondered what surgery she needed so urgently. Surprisingly, she wanted to change her entire appearance, although her double eyelids and perfect lips normally wouldn't require it. Her expression was intriguing. He suggested she reconsider, advising that it wasn't too late to return if she truly needed a change. Afterward, she left in the elevator but felt uneasy, as if someone was watching her, a feeling that persisted to the underground parking lot. Suddenly, a voice stopped her. A man then burst out and laughed wildly upon seeing the girl. Soon after, the director stopped Cha Jung-woo to inform him that a patient urgently needed surgery. The girl had unexplained fractures to her cheekbone and orbital bone, along with extensive tearing of the skin on the right side of her face, requiring immediate reconstructive surgery. Without a thought, Cha Jung-woo refused, as in South Korea, such surgeries are performed by surgeons. However, after much persuasion from the director and considering the girl's severe injuries, he relented. Before the surgery, Cha Jung-woo assessed the injuries, hypothesizing that the fractures occurred after the initial blow, followed by a second assault which caused the bones to impinge on the eye muscles. Therefore, the objects lodged in the orbit needed to be removed before reconstructing the shattered bones. Meanwhile, the police arrived at the scene, but found no useful clues beyond scattered glass shards. The entire parking lot surveillance was blocked by cars during the incident, capturing no footage of the girl being beaten. The man submitted a medical report claiming the girl had attacked him first. With no evidence, the police deemed it a mutual fight. Lee Min-hyung, determined to prove the man's guilt, approached Cha Jung-woo's office, hoping he could provide an expert statement proving the injuries were caused by a second attack, thus proving premeditation. To his surprise, Cha Jung-woo instantly refused, citing patient confidentiality. At that moment, the intoxicated father barged into the office, shouting that Cha Jung-woo was unfit to be a doctor. He blamed the rejection of treatment on their lack of money, claiming his child had run away from home because of Cha Jung-woo's disdain. Before he could finish speaking, he was dragged out by the part-time doctor and security. This incident gave Lee Min-hyung a different perspective on Cha Jung-woo. That afternoon, due to lack of evidence, the scoundrel was acquitted. Furious, he grabbed his lawyer's face, upset about the time spent detained. Just as he was about to strike, Lee Min-hyung grabbed his wrist and found a tracking system on his phone. 3 days later, the girl was discharged from the hospital. As soon as she opened her car door, the scoundrel pushed her inside and drove off from the basement. Lee Min-hyung, who was handling the case, saw this. She tried to reverse and follow, but was blocked by a car at the intersection. Coincidentally, Cha Jung-woo was driving home from work. She quickly explained the situation, and they followed the car. Meanwhile, the girl deliberately provoked the scoundrel throughout the drive, causing him to lose patience, unaware that his arrogant behavior was being recorded. Eventually, Cha Jung-woo forced the scoundrel's car to stop. Lee Min-hyung seized the moment to smash the car window and arrest him for kidnapping, detention, and assault. A tracking device was found in the rear of the car, bringing the stalking and assault case to a close. That evening, a man fell from a building in a community, identified as the father who had caused a scene at the hospital. Lee Min-hyung found something resembling a suicide note in his pocket, filled with insults directed at Cha Jung-woo. The father's mysterious death seemed uncared for by his daughter, who hoped the police would conclude it as a suicide without further investigation. However, during their inquiries, the police found several discrepancies. There were no fingerprints from outsiders near the balcony railing and window, no signs of struggle in the apartment, and no traces of blood. Nevertheless, Lee Min-hyung noticed that each date on the calendar was marked with a place name. Searching these place names reveals related famous plastic surgery hospitals, with the most recent one scheduled for the end of this month. Additionally, the father's polished dress shoes and the dry-cleaned suit hanging on the wall raise some questions. According to the current clues, a father wanted to cover his daughter's scars by seeking out renowned plastic surgery hospitals, repeatedly inquiring after being turned away. However, it remains unclear why he would commit suicide despite finding a hospital. Soon, the news reported on the suicide case and disclosed the contents of the suicide note, which pointed all accusations at Cha Jung-woo. Misinformed patients began canceling their appointments, significantly reducing the hospital's business. On the other side, after completing her statement at the police station, the daughter learned from the autopsy report that her father died from multiple open fractures, causing major organ damage. Additionally, the father had lung cancer. The captain speculated that he might have been unable to afford surgery for his daughter before his death, leading to his guilt-induced suicide. Thus, he advised his team to close the case as a suicide. Lee Min-hyung caught up with the daughter to ask for more clues, but was told by the child that her father was responsible for her facial injuries. Her mother had left home, and her father, while drunk, had made a mistake that ruined her life. She didn't see the point in his guilt-driven suicide at this stage, especially with her privacy already compromised by the media. She requested Lee Min-hyung not to pursue the case to avoid further impacting her life. Meanwhile, a lawyer friend called Cha Jung-woo into his car, feeling that although Cha Jung-woo might not face criminal charges, he could not escape the pressures of public opinion. He advised that if Cha needed help, he should not hesitate to reach out. Back at the hospital, to quell the negative public reaction, the director called a press conference. Not only will they offer free reconstructive surgery for the girl on humanitarian grounds, but Cha Jung-woo will also perform 3 special surgeries as part of this social welfare initiative. In the afternoon, the police received a sudden report of a woman being molested in the restroom of an internet cafe. The perpetrator's face was slashed with a 12-centimeter gash by a dagger. Upon receiving the report, Lee Min-hyung immediately went to the scene. The victim and her boyfriend were still in the cubicle. According to the boyfriend, they were initially playing games in the cafe when he noticed the perpetrator staring at his girlfriend's legs while pretending to clean. Initially, he did not pay much attention, but when his girlfriend went to the restroom, the suspect followed with ill intentions. He followed closely and heard her scream just as he reached the door. Upon opening the door, he saw his girlfriend holding a dagger, looking tense, while the perpetrator sat on the floor, injured. Lee Min-hyung suggested they go to the hospital for evidence collection. Meanwhile, the perpetrator was taken to Cha Jung-woo's hospital, acting unusually concerned about scarring and fidgeting with buttons during stitching, which Cha Jung-woo noticed but did not disclose due to privacy concerns. On the other hand, after collecting evidence with his girlfriend, the boyfriend noticed a few drops of blood on his shoes and preserved them as evidence. Soon after, Lee Min-hyung arrived at the hospital, where Cha Jung-woo informed him that the perpetrator needed immediate surgery. It turned out that the individual was diagnosed as a female who had undergone breast implant surgery 3 weeks prior, but now faced a severe infection at the surgical site, posing a life-threatening risk if not promptly addressed. This means the couple was lying. However, someone deliberately spread details of the molestation case at the internet cafe online. Netizens all blamed the internet cafe manager, calling him scum, and even suggesting he was a habitual offender. Pressured by public opinion, the captain wanted to close the case quickly and ordered the suspect to be brought back from the hospital to the police station. Just as they were about to leave, Cha Jung-woo stopped them. Judging by the wound which deepened from top to bottom, he deduced that the person wielding the weapon was taller than the internet cafe manager. Otherwise, the wound would have gone from bottom to top. Meanwhile, the boyfriend had been caught by the police. Lee Min-hyung found blood traces on his shoes that had an elliptical end like a tail, known as cast-off bloodstains. These are dynamic bloodstains left on a stationary object, suggesting that blood splattered from the weapon to the shoes, forming a spatter pattern. This indicated that the boyfriend was the one who injured the manager. It turned out that while playing the game, the boyfriend accidentally spilled a drink. The manager kindly came to clean it, causing the boyfriend's game character to die, which led to an argument. Coincidentally, the girlfriend wanted to use the restroom, and since the manager's biological sex was female, she did not want others to know and was waiting outside. The angry boyfriend then pushed her inside and assaulted her. The couple then staged the molestation scene in front of the manager. Eventually, Lee Min-hyung arrested them for aggravated assault and false accusation. That night, the niece of a man who had died in a fall provided a key clue. On the night of the incident, she saw a suspicious man but could not make out his face due to the darkness. However, it seemed like there was something sticky on the sole of his shoes. Lee Min-hyung quickly realized this was why there were no traces left and began to suspect the death was not a suicide. Moreover, she did not understand why the murderer would involve Cha Jung-woo. At the same time, just as Cha Jung-woo arrived at his apartment, a car sped towards him. Just as a black car was about to hit Cha Jung-woo, Lee Min-hyung drove a white sedan between them, forcing the other driver to turn around and preventing an accident. 1 hour earlier, Lee Min-hyung had noticed a black car that seemed to be following Cha Jung-woo. The driver, wearing a mask and a cap, resembled the mysterious person from a previous case of a fall from a building. Without hesitation, she followed the car. Along the way, she discreetly had a colleague check the license plate of the black car. It turned out to be a stolen vehicle, recently reported missing by its owner. Just as this information was shared, the black car sped towards Cha Jung-woo. Fortunately, Lee Min-hyung's quick reaction averted a potential disaster. The next day, the annual TV station modeling contest began. 8 contestants, using all their skills, made it to the finals. On the day of the last show's recording, a contestant named So Young not only received praise from the director, but also seemed unusually intimate with him. This caused discontent among the other contestants. It was widely rumored that So Young had been dismissed by her agency due to her indiscretions, so her closeness with the director was not surprising. Right after the afternoon's shooting, So Young was assaulted with sulfuric acid by a woman who approached her. So Young collapsed in agony. Passers-by quickly subdued the attacker. Unexpectedly, during police questioning, the woman seemed indifferent, muttering that she was a maid dismissed by her employer while on her way to the park due to the nice weather. She claimed not to know So Young and continuously asked the officers about someone in red clothing. Meanwhile, senior forensic analysts concluded that the surveillance footage alone could not confirm whether the car thief and the person involved in the fall case were the same individual. Meanwhile, Cha Jung-woo received a call from Park's doctor mother while in the car, who was puzzled why the director had assigned Cha Jung-woo to perform reconstructive surgery. In fact, the director had no choice but to calm the public outcry, as the father, who had recently been released from prison, only wanted to arrange surgery for his daughter who had suffered burns. Park's mother was shocked to hear this because she knew the father who had fallen. After So Young's emergency treatment was completed, she was left with second-degree burns on the left side of her face, and having previously had cheekbone augmentation, the doctors recommended treatment at a plastic surgery clinic. She felt extremely wronged, wondering why she should be attacked with acid by a woman she did not know. During a conversation, Lee Min-hyung noticed that she often shared updates openly on her social media. So Young was then taken to a plastic surgery clinic. Considering the risk of infection from the cheekbone implants, Cha Jung-woo suggested getting reconstructive surgery soon. So Young was very agitated upon learning that she would have scars. After a day of investigation and the employer's testimony, the officers were fairly certain that the old woman's attack was not targeted. However, Lee Min-hyung felt that relying on the old woman's testimony made the conclusion seem far-fetched, considering that So Young's whereabouts were public, and anyone could know her location and movements. At night, the old woman asked the police to find her husband. It turned out that her husband had run off in front of her with a woman wearing a bright red dress, giving the impression that So Young was considered a homewrecker. As the situation escalated, some unscrupulous bloggers twisted the facts into a narrative of a wife fighting a mistress. The police soon contacted the old woman's husband, who claimed that he did not know the model So Young, but always seemed to give off a frivolous vibe. Additionally, the husband revealed that his wife often secretly followed him, likely due to a mental disorder. However, the police found no medical records of her mental health. Surprisingly, The husband admitted that having psychiatric records could disadvantage her in a divorce, so she used a friend's name for consultations. Soon after, the police learned that the old woman suffered from depression, delusional disorder, and mental exhaustion. Given that she was a first-time offender, she was unlikely to be detained. Lee Min-hyung felt it was all too coincidental. The topic of her husband came up at just the right moment without being specifically asked, and she readily confessed a motive for the crime. It seemed as if some force was influencing the direction of the investigation. Therefore, she decided to look into recent acid attack cases to uncover a deliberately hidden motive. The scene shifts and the old woman was acquitted. Lee Min-hyung purposely blocked her way and handed her a photo of a victim from a previous acid attack. As the old woman was about to leave, Lee Min-hyung pretended to make a phone call, revealing So Young's situation in the plastic surgery clinic. The old woman fell for the trap. After dismissing her defense lawyer, she sneaked into Cha Jung-woo's plastic surgery clinic, and without hesitation entered So Young's hospital room, pulling out her phone to furiously take pictures of the person in bed. Unbeknownst to her, all her actions were being monitored and recorded by Lee Min-hyung. As the old woman left the hospital, she kept calling another woman. Meanwhile, the deeply distressed So Young stood at the edge of the hospital's rooftop, imagining herself in her once beautiful and charming days during competitions. A third-tier model accidentally bumped into the chairman who exploited his power to coerce female subordinates. After much thought, she decided to record evidence and report him to the authorities. However, she didn't anticipate the high cost of not remaining a passive observer. Meanwhile, Cha Jung-woo, on his way home, remembered how unstable So Young was when she was first admitted to the hospital after being disfigured. Yet, she appeared unusually calm when cooperating with the police recently, prompting an ominous feeling. He immediately turned his car around and rushed back to the hospital, just in time to pull So Young back from the edge of the rooftop, where she was about to end her life. On another front, Lee Min-hyung followed the old lady who had thrown acid to a luxury apartment complex. It turned out that during the day, she had deliberately shown a photo of another victim to this person, eliciting a significant reaction. This meant the old lady did not know So Young and needed to confirm in the hospital room whether the task she was given was completed before collecting her payment from the mastermind, using the photo as proof. Everything went as Lee Min-hyung expected. The old lady entered the luxury home. The mastermind, named Seo Yun-ho, was the wife of an entertainment company's chairman. She disdainfully told the old lady to take the money and leave. However, the old lady, unfazed, calmly picked up a cup of hot tea from the table. Seo Yun-ho screamed and held her head in fear, while the old lady, seeing this, laughed derisively, finding it amusing that merely acting crazy and a cup of liquid could ruin someone's life. This implied she could use the same method against Seo Yun-ho. Seo Yun-ho, no fool, picked up on the threat and swiftly changed her haughty attitude to one of respect. In reality, the old lady was threatening her to extract more money. At the same time, the police obtained the dashcam footage from the taxi the old lady had taken, clearly showing her leaving the apartment with a large bag of cash. It is suspected that the two parties had some kind of deal, but there is no concrete evidence yet. Therefore, they decided to closely monitor the old lady's financial transactions. Soon, a colleague discovered that the old lady frequently visited a plastic surgery clinic for consultations. The next afternoon, the case progressed further when Lee Min-hyung confronted a middle-aged man outside So Young's hospital room. According to the man, So Young and his daughter were close friends and had worked for the same entertainment company a year ago, where the company's chairman, Kim Ji-hyuk, is now serving time in prison. The man believed that the acid attack was related to his deceased daughter. Lee Min-hyung relayed this information to So Young, revealing that her friend had committed suicide last year due to Kim Ji-hyuk's misconduct. So Young was deeply affected by this revelation. Once she calmed down, she revealed the truth. That afternoon, her colleague legally arrested the old lady. Meanwhile, Lee Min-hyung and his team prevented Seo Yun-ho from leaving her house. During the interrogation, the old lady confessed everything. The mastermind behind the acid attack was Kim Ji-hyuk in prison, who had communicated his plan through letters to his wife, who then hired someone to commit the crime at a high price. However, Seo Yun-ho saw nothing wrong with this, believing that men in business sometimes make minor mistakes. So Young, unrelated to the issue, had reported the incident, causing her husband to nearly explode in anger in prison, leading them to teach her a lesson. Lee Min-hyung warned Seo Yun-ho that wrongdoings must be punished, officially solving the acid attack case. The internet cleared. So Young's name, but her disfigured face could not be restored. Who would avenge her dead friend? Unconsciously, So Young recalled the hideous face of the perpetrator and the helpless look in her friend's eyes after being assaulted. Her gaze eventually fell on the scissors in the nurse's pocket in the room. She decided to take matters into her own hands and kill the monstrous chairman. Just as she was about to act, Cha Jung-woo appeared. Cha Jung-woo warned her not to attempt to stab anyone with it, as it was a dressing forceps used for gripping gauze during bandage changes. He also advised her not to waste time on futile actions and to focus instead on how to proceed with a skin transplant. True revenge is not just about recklessness. It also involves not giving up on life as the perpetrator hopes. A day later, So Young accepted Cha Jung-woo's suggestion for a skin transplant surgery. Soon after, she participated in a modeling competition final. She knew she could not return to her former appearance, but giving up completely would mean letting the criminals control her life. However, reality is not a fairy tale, and it remains a superficial era. So Young did not place in the competition. That evening, as Cha Jung-woo was leaving work, he noticed someone staring at him through his car window. Without hesitation, he followed the person. By chance, Lee Min-hyung saw him and immediately joined the pursuit. The mysterious figure soon vanished from Cha Jung-woo's view. However, the person suddenly called out to Lee Min-hyung and calmly approached, removing their mask face to face. Unexpectedly, Lee Min-hyung recognized the mysterious person. On her first day at the patrol unit, Lee Min-hyung thought it would be a relaxed job, but a sudden murder case needing support was broadcasted. The girl experiencing her first murder case was confused. However, when she saw the true face of the murderer, Lee Min-hyung had to choose to ignore it, despite the man claiming he was not the killer. The fingerprints and hair found in the victim's room could convict the suspect without any witnesses. Years later, her brother, released from prison, met her again, shamelessly blaming a doctor for ruining his life. He argued that if it weren't for the media exposure, he wouldn't have been at the center of a public scandal. Lee Min-hyung refused to listen to her brother's excessive explanations. Committing a crime does not necessarily lead to repentance. Just as she was about to handcuff him, her brother, looking pale, said he still had things to prepare. Shortly after he left, Cha Jung-woo arrived to check if Lee Min-hyung was hurt and asked if she saw the man's face. Knowing her brother's grudge against Cha Jung-woo, she hesitated to say much. A delivery man, arriving a few minutes late, was mistaken for the murderer. According to the victim's family, the delivery man was provoked into entering the house when she accidentally dropped the payment money on the floor. An altercation ensued with her cousin, resulting in a broken mirror and glass shards on her cousin's face. Although the delivery man argued that it was already bloody when he entered and that he was being scapegoated for being an easy target, Lee Min-hyung had shared an elevator with him earlier. She overheard him threatening someone over a missed delivery payment, saying they would end up half alive. When she followed the noise, he looked nervous and fled, leaving his helmet at the scene. However, the key point is that the delivery man had a similar criminal record involving special residential break-ins and assaults, and he was still on probation. Despite his denials, all signs pointed to his involvement. According to regulations, this allowed for a preemptive arrest warrant to be issued against him. Meanwhile, the victim was taken to Cha Jung-woo's hospital for surgery. His facial injuries were not severe, except for a fractured ear bone and a deeper cut near his chin, which seemed to have been caused by another impact. The boy said the situation was chaotic, and he couldn't remember clearly, but his cousin remembered everything vividly. Just as Cha Jung-woo came out of the operating room, she rushed to ask if the paramedics had improperly handled her cousin's face, causing the wounds to deepen during transport. Although she appeared very concerned, she became anxious upon hearing that her cousin's ear surgery had to wait until the next day, and tried to persuade Cha Jung-woo to just stitch it up. Eventually, she was informed by Cha Jung-woo that the ear required cartilage from the other side to fill the defect, and she no longer insisted on discharging him. Before the surgery the next day, Lee Min-hyung came to question the victim. His statements were consistent with his cousin's, so there were no major discrepancies. However, Lee Min-hyung noticed bruises on his wrist, to which he still claimed the chaos made it hard to remember clearly. Similarly, his cousin, waiting at the door, hurriedly asked Lee Min-hyung about the delivery man's situation, expressing fear that he might target them again. After Lee Min-hyung informed her that they had already applied for the delivery man's arrest, the cousin finally breathed a sigh of relief. Following procedure, Lee Min-hyung listened to the attending physician, Cha Jung-woo, who mentioned a fragment removed from near the victim's chin. He described the wound as particularly deep compared to others, with a different shape and trajectory, and a messy cut, suggesting it was inflicted by someone else. At that moment, the boy entered, inquiring about his surgery, but his attention was drawn to the fragment in Lee Min-hyung's hand. With the information from Cha Jung-woo, Lee Min-hyung grew suspicious. Even though the delivery man's arrest warrant had been approved, Lee Min-hyung arranged for colleagues to reinvestigate the cousins' relationship and returned to the crime scene to collect a pair of slippers with fragments and blood, sending them to the forensic center. Meanwhile, colleagues contacted the boy's father, who stated his son couldn't use his phone at the boarding tutorial center, and they hadn't been in touch for a while. He also mentioned not having any relatives living in Seoul and noted that the boy had switched to online classes some time ago, raising further doubts. Just as a colleague was about to update Lee Min-hyung, her phone became unreachable. Cha Jung-woo also couldn't contact her and made a more alarming discovery. After performing surgery on the boy, he saw another patient acting suspiciously at the hospital door, who seemed to know the cousins. Without giving it much thought, Cha Jung-woo later discovered a bug in his office. He rushed to the boy's room, found him already discharged, and realized something was amiss with the cousins. He then spoke to the patient, learning that the patient and the boy attended the same high school and that the supposed cousin was just a teacher who had interned at their school. Therefore, they were not cousins but rather a teacher and a student with an unusual relationship. Rumors circulated that the female teacher came from a prestigious family, so people only dared to speak behind her back. However, one student couldn't resist spreading word of their inappropriate relationship, and his fate was to suddenly commit suicide by jumping off the roof of a commercial building near the school. There was speculation that he was lured to the rooftop and pushed off. Cha Jung-woo learned from the police that Lee Min-hyung had gone to check on the supposed cousin's home, and immediately felt a bad premonition. At the same time, Lee Min-hyung arrived at the woman's house, where she first admitted to giving a false statement under duress. She had known and dated the young man before, and on the night of the incident, she had tried to break up with him. He responded by threatening her with a private video of them. In desperation, she pleaded on her knees, but as he tried to push her away, he accidentally crashed into a glass panel. A delivery man appeared at that moment, and she blamed him to avoid her own involvement being revealed, fearing it would ruin her chances of passing a government employment exam. The young man was not at her home, so she felt safe to confess to Lee Min-hyung. But as Lee Min-hyung was about to take her to the police station to report her statement, she suddenly became enraged. The young man then appeared and knocked Lee Min-hyung unconscious. The woman, claiming to be unsure of what to do, had already decided on a course of action. She fetched a knife from the kitchen, forced it into the young man's hand, and coerced him to kill Lee Min-hyung. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Cha Jung-woo arriving. Despite this, the woman did not cease her actions, but instead slapped the trembling young man, urging him to be brave, and remarked that this was not the first time they had done such a thing. The man picked up the knife and slowly walked towards Lee Min-hyung. Under the teacher's provocation, the young man finally acted, but Lee Min-hyung, who had awakened, caught his hands. Just then, Cha Jung-woo broke in through the door. Seeing the situation turn against her, the woman quickly changed her demeanor, expressing disappointment at the young man's actions while pretending to be pitiful. She sought protection behind Cha Jung-woo. The young man completely broke down, shouting as he broke free from Lee Min-hyung and ran out. Haunted by the teacher's influence, the woman tried to argue her case. However, unbeknownst to her, Lee Min-hyung, though briefly unconscious, had recorded their conversation. When he entered her home, a colleague had called him, and he had put the phone in his pocket, which recorded her confessing to the crime. The young man had once glanced at a young girl on TV, which enraged the teacher. Holding the laptop with evidence of the young man's crimes, she decided to go to the police. The young man pleaded desperately, but the teacher was unmoved. During their struggle, he hit a mirror, and falling glass shards cut his face and embedded a long piece in his chin. Still furious, the teacher stepped hard on the shard, driving it deeper. Thus, the truth was revealed. The young man had met the woman during his high school days when she was interning at a tutoring center. They soon began dating. After rumors surfaced, they committed murder to silence them. The woman also began isolating the young man from all social contacts, effectively imprisoning him in her home. Using the evidence of the murder of a classmate and long-term psychological manipulation, she made him completely dependent on her, both mentally and physically. The most terrifying part was that the buttons on the young man's shirt were devices installed by her. She controlled them completely through earphones. With the real culprit caught, the delivery man was released. He was not only innocent, but also pitiable. Wrongly blamed and scolded by the woman, he vented all his frustrations on Lee Min-hyung, who had not listened to his cries of innocence. Despite his criminal record, Lee Min-hyung felt guilty towards the delivery man and began to reconsider his brother's case, wondering if it was also a miscarriage of justice due to his past. Lee Min-hyung restarted the investigation, first obtaining his brother's address from their mother, and then retrieving taxi surveillance footage from outside the prison. It confirmed his brother did visit the victim's home the night he died. Unfortunately, after contacting the police in his brother's jurisdiction, Lee Min-hyung learned he no longer lived at the registered address. His search hit a deadlock. That night, a disheartened Lee Min-hyung ate at his usual street food stall, unexpectedly running into Cha Jung-woo. Lee Min-hyung probed Cha Jung-woo for help, learning that Cha's search for his brother was not for revenge, but out of concern that he indirectly caused his father's death by falling. Lee Min-hyung felt even more remorse towards this good man, and downed half a beer in one gulp, silently vowing to help Cha Jung-woo uncover the truth. In a moment, Cha Jung-woo seemed lost. His deceased fiancée also drank only half a glass. Then something more bewildering happened to Cha Jung-woo. Someone spray-painted, "Murderer, you know?" on his car. Right then, he received a call from a lawyer who had found out that his brother had been paroled last month and had a sister who was a police officer. Now, this sister was set to bring justice against her own brother. From the items left by their father, Lee Min-hyung found a keyring. It reads Benevolent Hands Medical Association, a volunteer group of doctors for prisoners. Both their father and brother had been incarcerated in the same prison, leading to interconnected lives. Soon, Lee Min-hyung and Cha Jung-woo, using their respective networks, found the actual address of the brother. They met by accident. From his initial arrest to the spray painting on his car after his release, the brother had always denied committing murder. Cha Jung-woo wanted to investigate whether there was more to the case. Unfortunately, the brother was not home, and the hospital called Cha Jung-woo back, resulting in a wasted trip. Meanwhile, Lee Min-hyung had the keyring tested, but the girl had initially treated it as a regular item, removing any other fingerprints. Fortunately, Lee Min-hyung traced the Benevolent Hands Medical Association to its founder. During the investigation, the founder became emotional upon seeing the male photo provided by Lee Min-hyung, revealing the founder to be Cha Jung-woo's mother. Lee Min-hyung quickly ended the inquiry and left in haste. As night fell, a truth-seeking Cha Jung-woo returned to his brother's house. He broke in and was shocked to find his brother's walls plastered with photos and case files, including Lee Min-hyung's photo. Suddenly, Cha Jung-woo pieced together why Lee Min-hyung had been avoiding him. Just then, Lee Min-hyung received a distress message from a girl neighbor, the same one who had seen a suspicious masked man on the night of their father's murder. The girl was drinking at her neighbor's house when they were both attacked by the masked man, putting their lives in grave danger.